Record-breaking 22 million viewers. Arenas sold out of products. Caitlin Clark's actions everywhere. She made women's basketball impossible. Must-watch TV since she broke and gained new admirers. Scoring records and altered the course of play. Eternity, but her most recent issue of Time magazine. Outrage about the interview. When some people say, others refer to her as a villain, whereas she is a hero. The reality is that it's more intricate than. Did anyone think of the Time magazine article? Was intended to belong to Caitlin Clark. Victory lap, a smashing celebration. NCAA scoring records that lead to the Super Bowl. Degree of viewership figures, and turning basketball for women into must-watch entertainment rather than became the epicenter of one of the sport's most contentious discussions. Let's examine what actually took place during this interview. Clark covered a number of important topics that appear to start the firestorm. First, she discussed women's basketball unity, highlighting the ideal way for the sport to be about encouraging everyone rather than shedding tears. Everyone down, she spoke straight to the issues pertaining to Angel Rita. According to Carrington and other players, the times of competition on the court shouldn't define the character of anyone. The interview's timing is essential to comprehend the criticism that followed. The last home game for Iowa, where Clark broke Pete Maravich's Division I NCAA score. Her game's scoring record was attracting millions of viewers on a regular basis. We are discussing the regular season. College athletic events attracting crowds that Indiana Fever, a foe in the NBA playoffs, own the WNBA draft's first pick, witnessed a sharp increase in their season ticket sales, only on the potential for drafting Clark. However, here's where things start to get intriguing. Clark's interview went beyond simply regarding judicial matters. She spoke regarding her behind-the-scenes work, advocating for more compensation for all WNBA. She talked about players, not just stars, attempting to guarantee variety in her documentaries that ensure players, such as Kiki Rice and Cardoso, were highlighted next to her. The press. Clark's surroundings have had a distinctive terrain. Every match, interview, and social media posts are analyzed as though we're examining foreign diplomacy. She's no longer merely playing basketball. Whether she wants to or not, she has become a symbol. To be or not. What distinguishes this moment? What makes this interview especially important is its platform and timing. This wasn't just another press conference after the game, or this was a brief social media announcement that Time magazine is the same magazine that awarded her the title of Athlete of the Year, platform that would allow her to finally address everything in her own words, in detail. Critics cite particular words and phrases, examining each word choice as if it were a legal record, but they don't have the larger framework. Clark discussed the significance of representation, recognized the arrival of the pioneers before her, and made it clear that she wanted to watch the growth of the sport as a whole, not just her personal brand. Additionally, the interview disclosed something regarding Clark's knowledge of her role. She knew the strain of being in the spotlight while attempting to handle difficult societal issues as a 22-year-old sportswoman who didn't say she possessed all the solutions, yet she shown a readiness to deal with challenging themes directly. But the most telling was not included in the interview, shifting blame without making an effort to downplay other people's experiences and failing to establish oneself as the only spokesperson for. Instead, she played women's basketball, constantly highlighted the group expansion of the sport and its significance of solidarity among social media users. Broke out in a matter of hours. Interviews made the response public. A wide disparity in opinions regarding Clark's. Let's examine the role in women's basketball. Investigate the precise cause of this fire. First came the timing of the torrent of condemnation. Critics said it was too little, too late. Where did this statement appear during the season while other players had to deal with internet? Some disputed about death threats and harassment. It was deafening how silent Clark was. Cited instances such as the Angel Reese dispute or Carrington's Dark, a bizarre episode that implied Clark had raised their voices before there were those who doubted the legitimacy of her statements in spite of Clark's constant encouraging basketball for women and promoting a better player. Reimbursement from the beginning. Skeptics depicted her remark as a PR ploy. Moves, they conveniently disregarded her history of helping other players and advocating for enhancements around the league. The criticism became much stranger. Turn when others advised that she ought to have declined the award for Athlete of the Year. According to these detractors, other athletes were more worthy, but they found it difficult to present a compelling argument. In light of Clark's extraordinary influence on audience size and cultural significance in 2024, what's especially it's intriguing how the backlash exposed concerning the critics more than Clark. She frequently appears to be reacting to an fictitious Clark instead of her real statements, and deeds were disputing a stereotype they had established, not the actual individual who would regularly strive to improve the sport as a whole. Response revealed a concerning double. Typically, male players in sports are social activists are rarely expected to diplomatic representatives and the championship level performers simultaneously, but not yet. Clark was being criticized for not flawlessly juggling each of these roles, while surpassing scoring benchmarks and changing the popularity of sports. In some of the most severe critiques originated from those who identify as supporters of these critics of women's sports appear to failed to see the irony of demolishing the alleged defense of a female athlete. Of others, disputes frequently contradicted one another at the same time, asserting that Clark's impact was excessive, claiming she wasn't doing enough. The reaction on her platform also emphasized a basic misinterpretation of athlete advocacy. Real change frequently occurs behind the scenes through exclusive discussions, and consistent activity is the exact strategy. Clark explained how to take criticism, appeared to call for public declarations and bold actions that put the needs of activism that is performed rather than. Perhaps the most striking of the outcomes was how the criticism exposed a portion of the sports fandom that appears to be more focused on confrontation rather than advancement. They weren't merely disapproving of Clark's strategy, they were aggressively looking for justifications to deny her beneficial influence on the. What causes this backlash in sports? Especially important is its possible effects on sportsmen in the future when we establish a setting where each words are examined closely and nothing is ever enough that we run the danger of deterring the next generation from speaking up at. Let's all look past the commotion at the real record of Caitlin Clark. Numbers speak for themselves, and Clark's influence on women's basketball is a first. Let's start by discussing viewership for the Iowa. Drew 12.3 against the LSU Elite 8 matchup. Million viewers, making it the highest. Saw a college basketball game for ladies ever, but Clark, it wasn't a single game. Continuously drew in audiences that matched or outperformed the NBA regular season. Plays her last game at home against Iowa drew 3.4 million more people watched than many professional athletic competitions beyond just drawing attention to Clark's sport. Been subtly transforming the commercial side when she joined Nike. She didn't only bargain for herself. According to accounts, she lobbied for clauses that would help the entire WNBA players, such as performance bonuses for the whole league when the attendant. Let's have a peek at her spikes during games. When she was in full court for her documentary work, Clark was producing a press, especially asked Camila to. Kiki Rice and Cardoso will be highlighted. Notably, this wasn't made public. Emerged later via the production crew. She recognized the significance of demonstrating the variety of women's. The influence of basketball merchandise is. Iowa women's basketball is astounding. In a single year, revenue increased by 73%. Clark will likely be drafted by the Indiana Fever. Witnessed a spike in season ticket purchases 2 years ago. Her jersey set a new high record, selling basketball jerseys for women at within hours of its release. Ardent supporters, but her acts are maybe the most telling. During contentious moments following the incident with Dar Carrington's eye poke, Clark said right away that she didn't think it was a deliberate attempt to ease tensions, while Angel Reese is controversy that she continuously lauded Reese's skill and minimized any alleged rivalry. But what about her influence on young people? Girls' basketball attendance. Nationwide basketball camps have. Young players are reported by spiked coaches sporting a logo while practicing three-point shooting, number 22, and having larger aspirations regarding the financial future of their basketball. Clark's reality cannot be disregarded either. Success is generating chances for other gamers. Her game is enormous. Viewership has resulted in a rise in income from advertising for women's. The entire game of basketball. When she bargains for better terms, it increases the bar for everyone. Her method of actions for advocacy have been constant, overspoken words, but some call for public claims. Clark has concentrated on concrete. She has advocated for improvements, facilities expanded their coverage, and more promotional assistance for women's basketball. The figures also demonstrate her at every level. Team-first mindset, even when it breaks. Clark leads the country in scoring records and supports her in producing chances for teammates while attracting an unusual amount of defensive. Above all, Clark has remained professional at all times. Her ascent without controversy or scandals. Tweets that are constant and free of public disputes. Excellence and support for her sport. When we examine the concrete proof, the amount of views, and the financial impact, the advocacy behind the scenes is evident that Clark has made more progress. Women's basketball throughout the last 12 months than she's done what many others have done for decades. While keeping grace under pressure. Examination of the demands made on Caitlin Clark displays a noticeable double norm in professional athletics. Let's elucidate how these impractical expectations appear when male athletes just concentrate on their game. They're commended for their commitment. When Clark, do critics want her to speak up? When she does more on social issues, answer those same critics' queries. Her timing and sincerity are excellent. "Damned if you do" is a classic saying that. "Don't think about this, LeBron." James received praise for stating, "I'm not a role model in his early professional life," although Clark, who is only 22, is anticipated to be a ideal activist, role model, diplomat, and, at the same time, the superstar athlete. Not only is the pressure doubled, but exponentially. Examine how festivities are evaluated differently when men athletes display passion and emotion on the court. Clark's celebration of a logo 3 is haughty when she remains modest in the face of critics claim that she isn't doing enough to advance. The goalposts in women's sports aren't. They're on different fields, just moving. The media scrutiny is equally unbalanced in all of Clark's interactions with opponents is examined in a manner similar to simple and straightforward international diplomacy. A competitive moment makes headlines. In the meanwhile, male athletes can have full-scale core conflicts without encountering almost the same degree of scrutiny. Time magazine's criticism of her. This is nicely demonstrated in the interview. People who insisted she use a double standard raise awareness of issues impacting women's basketball when she carried out that exact action. They criticized her choice of platform, time, and phrase choice without a man. Athletes deal with this degree of language scrutiny that comes with financial success. Double standard when male sportsmen sign significant agreements, they're ensuring there. When Clark does it in the future, she's never mind commercializing the sport, that she is making an effort to raise payment for every WNBA player who does not. Social networking for Simply Stars magnifies these double standards in all of Clark's posts, or a statement is examined for concealed, indicating that she must reply to every dispute, advances every cause, and continue to avoid mistakes at all times. Sustaining optimal athletic performance. The gap between generations adds another layer. Women's basketball veterans occasionally be critical of her for having chances they didn't overlook. How she's working hard to recognize and respect everyone who paved the path, including her. Double standards are applied to playing style. Long-range shooters who are men are transforming the game at the moment when Clark. Is that what some critics refer to as showboating? Regardless of her shooting percentages, defending all of her shots the most. Blatantly unfair expectations that she ought to correct decades of disparity in women's athletics while thriving on the court at the same time, keeping up a flawless public image and overcoming the challenges of being a 22-year-old in the news these days. Clark is not the only one affected by unequal standards. They create risky precedents for the future. When we place female athletes, it's impossible. We risk our stars' expectations, deterring the following generation from assuming the limelight at all. The controversy surrounding Caitlin Clark isn't simply regarding one interview, it concerns the. Let's examine the future of women's sports. What Clark has accomplished in reality. Unprecedented viewership figures that compete with the sales of Super Bowl items can cause websites to crash, and a degree of the WNBA draft has gained interest for the first time ever into prime time. She's only 22 and juggling unheard of expectations, breaking score records, guiding her group to success and expanding the whole sport, dealing with social problems, keeping a flawless public image that supports and propels business growth. The critique reveals other athletes something more profound that some people don't. They are invested and want to see success in dispute as social media rages. Clark remains committed to real change, advocating for improved player compensation, promotion, variety within the sport, and continuously lauding her rivals. The unquestionably revolutionary impact. Revenue for Iowa women's basketball up 73%. Youth WNBA ticket sales are on the rise. TV ratings are rising due to involvement, smashing records, and landing new sponsorship agreements into the realm of women's sports. Yet the actual query is, are we incurring expenses? too high for success if we demand excellence in every aspect of athletics. We risk being an activist diplomat role model, discouraging upcoming stars from pursuing. The fact of this approach is that women's Clark makes basketball better. Revenue is up, youth is up, and viewing is up. The WNBA's participation is increasing. The future appears more promising than before. Results that can be seen are more important than any discussion on social media. Clark's story isn't no longer only about basketball. Instead, it's about how we handle transformational skills. Who has the courage to alter the game? Isn't if Clark is doing enough, but rather, if we're prepared to accept advancement. When it gets there, the truth is evident. Not everyone is genuinely interested in Caitlin Clark's actions or words. Their decisions have already been made concerning her. Yet this tale isn't over if you wish to remain informed about how this situation evolves and receives additional analysis of the most significant stories in women's basketball. Don't forget to click the subscribe button. Leave your comments below with your opinions. Do you believe that the criticism is reasonable, or are our young people being asked to do too much? Remember to like this video, athletes. If this analysis was useful to you, thank you for viewing.